Blue skies means fun days. Helping skydivers with tips and techniques about safety, training and fun jumping from those who know. Hi and welcome to Blue Skies Fun Days. One of the newest disciplines in skydiving is speed. This is where you exit the aircraft and progressively stand on your head and see how fast you can go. To learn a lot more about this discipline and its growing popularity, I had a chat with Niklas Daniel, one of the fastest gravity-assisted people on the planet.
So speed skydiving is a discipline that sounds as simple. It's basically where we jump out of the airplane and try to get down as fast as possible. So in essence, what we're trying to accomplish is to have the highest vertical speed, and we record that using GPS, and who goes the fastest wins. I couldn't probably tell you much about the history about it other than I personally started in 2017. And back in those days, we were still using the barometric pressure readings. And so that's when we had the L&B altimeters, 2 of them that were on the laterals. The readings, while they were good, were not as consistent. And then in 2019, it was switched to using FlySight's, the GPS readings, and it's been much more reliable since then. I really enjoy speed skydiving. It's something that's very different from the past competitions that I've participated in, like, for example, vertical formation skydiving or any team-related stuff. I really enjoyed doing things like canopy piloting, again, where I was just doing a solo activity. And I really enjoy the aspect that no matter how well or poorly I do, I really only have myself to blame. And that's something that I just really enjoy. I like being able to challenge myself and push myself. And yeah, it's just something I keep coming back to. So I think in the past, speed skydiving was a lot of the times it was the perception that it was the people that were maybe a little bit on the heavier side and that had a hard time participating with other people in terms of like group jumps and not having the free fall compatibility. So they just kind of went and did their own thing. What we're seeing now, though, is we're seeing more people that have maybe a tunnel heavy background or a free fly background. And so that's bringing more diverse group of individuals into this discipline. So I think speed skydiving still has a lot of innovation coming up in its near and long future. And so there are a lot of things that we consider in terms of like, how can I get like maybe a technological edge, whether it's, hey, I'm going to wear a tighter suit, or I want to have maybe a different shaped rig or maybe different helmet. And so while all of that is really good to consider, first and foremost, I really like to think of the safety aspects first, and then also the technique and the skill involved. So it doesn't make much sense to me if somebody barely knows how to fly stable to have them try to put on a really tight suit that makes it even harder. So I think it's really important that we have a logical progression to get to this point. And again, that can be done in a safe manner. I think first and foremost, safety-wise, equipment, we need to make sure that we have stuff that is what we call free fly friendly, right? So no matter which attitude your body is in and which orientation it's in relative to the wind, that we're not going to have an accidental or premature deployment. Doing that at high speeds could obviously be very bad. It would damage the equipment. It could obviously injure the person. So we need to first and foremost make sure that they're actually safe to do the activity. And so we look for basic things that you would in a free fly scenario as well. So good riser protection, bridle protection, making sure the rig is tight, that the pilot chute, specifically that the BOC is tight. So regardless of which handle you have, that the pilot chute material can't just slip out. So those are some of the very basics. And then we also consider your altitude awareness. What kind of altimeters are you going to use? Because if you're really going for it, you're not going to have time to just keep looking at your altimeter, because every time that you move your arm, you're going to be producing drag. So very similar also, like, for example, camera flyers, same thing, right? They're more focused on the subject matter. And so there's a little bit of overlap in that. But we actually use visual indications. So we have a redundant system where we have 2 separate altimeters that will actually flash in our helmet to let us know what altitudes we're at. And so that allows us to continue to stay in that streamlined shape and not worry about that. And then in addition to that, we also have our audible altimeters as well. So a lot of redundancy. As my skills improved, I then started considering jumping with tighter suits, and that in itself is a new challenge because we basically use the drag force to maintain control in free fall, right? And so as you start getting rid of drag, in chase of performance, you actually start to lose some of that control. So you have to have really good body control before you can move into those tighter suits. And so not only are we trying to go tighter to reduce flapping, which can obviously produce a lot of drag, but we're also looking for materials that are going to be able to withstand those types of forces. So I found personally with many of the different fabrics that I experimented with, whether it was Teslan initially, that it would hold up for maybe about 200 to 300 jumps, and then it would start tearing, and those holes, those mini holes that were being created would then just immediately get bigger, and I actually had parts of my sleeves actually completely rip off. And so I then started experimenting with different suits that have kind of more of a latex or a lycra, and even some leathers and stuff like that that are a little bit tougher, and they also, again, if they're tailored properly, will maintain their shape. So those last longer, but also yield a little bit better performance as long as you know how to fly it. Because with some of those materials that are a little bit thicker and harder, it actually kind of makes it harder to feel the wind as well. And so that's kind of tough, because if you feel like you're head down or at this angle that you're looking for, but you don't quite get the sensation of how much pressure there is, you might actually just be creating a bunch of drag because you're at the wrong attitude, right? And so that's not good either. So it really takes experimenting with the fabric, what it's capable of, and then also, is it actually helping you, fly it well. I very much kind of scoured the internet and started, checking on different sports that have some type of aero shaping or have that kind of stuff to contend with. So everything from bicycles to downhill mountain biking to the downhill skateboarding. There's even aspects of swimming that I looked into. And so there's just all these different sports. And so the problem is though the speeds that we're traveling, no one else is really doing, and air is going to behave differently at different speeds. And so there's still that aspect of like, while things might be good in theory, in practice we find that maybe it doesn't work out as well. So I'm still experimenting with a lot of different things. I have a suit right now that's very tight and that's very slick. I have intentions of changing the shape and geometry of my rig. UPT is helping me out with a rig order that I've got coming with different materials again. There are other things that I'd like to maybe move towards, maybe like a different shaped helmet. I've already played with 3D printing, bolt-on items that might change the airflow a little bit, but I've had little success with that. But it's an ongoing project. I'm averaging for the competition side about 522 kilometers an hour, and the fastest I've ever gone in training was 350 miles an hour or so. Like around 330 miles an hour is what we're looking at. I don't perceive much of a ground rush at this point. I had a few but I had a few times where when I was doing it very early on where I certainly got that sensation, and it's like, right around like 4,000 feet as I'm already in the slowing down process, you start to feel like things are a lot closer than they really are. But because I've seen the sight picture so many times now, I don't really perceive it as ground rush anymore. It's not really something I'm concerned about. As long as I'm altitude aware and I'm doing my job correctly, it's not something that I worry about. So from green light, obviously I've made sure I'm in the right position, right, good spot, all that good stuff, airplane's properly configured. And so personally, I've experimented with different types of exits, but essentially my goal is to leave the aircraft in a way that while I am trying to be as aerodynamic as I can, I actually also try to produce a little bit of downforce in the process. As I start to accelerate, the sensation is that of actually kind of being weightless, which sounds kind of counterintuitive at first, but if you think about if you've ever been on a roller coaster, same thing, as you kind of get that drop, right, you actually feel kind of weightless. And that if I have a really good run, it actually continues to feel like that, and I start to feel my weight kind of return slowly over the next about 23 seconds. And then after 23 seconds, usually I'm already at the breakoff altitude, which is around 5,600 feet. And that's when I essentially go from a head down attitude to kind of peeling out of that dive into like an angle jump and then into a high lift track. And so during that time, just like at the bottom of the roller coaster, I'm usually experiencing a little over 3 Gs momentarily. Having slowed down enough, I actually try to, through feel, determine like, okay, now I'm reaching that deployment speed, and I want to make sure that I deploy that parachute at a reasonable speed, so I'm not prematurely pulling that at a speed that might hurt me or destroy the parachute. over a while it can kind of take a lot out of you. It's kind of funny because when I was training with the formation stuff, I would do 10 to 15 jumps in a day, and usually with speed I'll do between 4 and 6 or something like that. So it is kind of different. It's a different physical challenge. Coming back from the recent World Championships, it felt absolutely amazing to win. There was a lot of effort and just blood, sweat, and tears that went into it. So that was very gratifying. So right now I would be ranking number 2, I think, in all-time performance if you're looking at that. Marco Hepp's still from Germany, still being number 1. And we keep kind of close records of that as well on the ISSA website. So we have an internal rankings page. So not only are we competing with each other in the competition for the gold, but we also like to do things like set records and obviously compete amongst each other. It was an amazing journey. Like I said, I started with it, dabbling with it in 2017, and then took it more serious at the end of 2019. And so it's been probably one of the more difficult things that I've done in life, because it also required me to make some really big physical changes, and just the way that I trained, the intensity that I put into it. So it felt very gratifying to end where it did. I don't think I can speak for the entire future of the discipline, but I think where we're at right now, there's a lot of innovation happening right now. And I think we're going to see a lot more changes where probably competitors are going to introduce maybe new technologies and stuff like that. So I do believe we'll still see the numbers continue to climb, which is exciting. I know Marco, for example, is still chasing that 600 kilometers an hour. That's really what he would like to see within the next few years. And so I think it will be possible. I think we're still learning a lot. I know there's also being some research done on the academic side of things, doing some computational fluid dynamics and maybe even some modeling and stuff. So I think it's an exciting time to be in it right now.
500 plus kilometers an hour is quick. Thank you, Nick, for the insights, and I wish you and Brianne all the best in future competitions. And a big thanks to Mike Brewer and David Cherry for taking some of the pictures that Nick supplied to me. I look forward to catching up with you again on the next episode of Blue Skies Fun Days. For more tips and techniques, click subscribe.